Okay, now let's talk about units and tactics. So as I stated before, in general, units are always going to be your number one priority just because of the flexibility that they present to you as a player and as a deck builder. There's just too many good units out there to not have, and a lot of them fit different deck archetypes ranging from aggressive decks to heavy control decks. Now, you can't get the same flexibility with tactics because obviously they're locked to very specific, sometimes very specific decks, as well as locked to each individual commander. And these neutral minions are not. And so you don't have that. You don't have that option there. And an example is the gun turret, the force supply 3/5 with screen. Take off 1 point of attack from the premium stats to get screen, and now it could possibly take 2, maybe 3 different units to kill it, or maybe a unit attack and a tactic to kill it. Just a standard overall good card. A card now that everyone should have that wasn't that great beforehand that is really good now is the sniper. In my previous video I said to think of this card as a 2 supply deal 1 damage neutral tactic, and she is really good now, really good because of the potential value that she can give you throughout the whole game. She single-handedly can clear units, can clear multiple units if given the opportunity, if their health is low enough. She's really, really great. Now, sometimes you just can't get that with tactics. And just because of the fact that, well, one, there's plenty of good neutral units in the game as is, and the fact that they can just be used in so many different ways and fit in multiple different decks, it just makes them pretty much your number one priority. Like I said in the beginning of the video, in general, a player can compensate for inferior minions by successfully controlling the board efficiently, trading efficiently, getting as much value from your units as possible. Now, tactics are number 2, almost in most cases, but sometimes I think to myself that, some of these are really good not to have, too good not to have immediately in my deck. In some cases, I honestly believe that a player cannot compensate for inferior, much less no tactics at all. When your opponent plays a superior unit, usually you're just going to go ahead and trade into it. But if a screen gets thrown up, now you have to allocate your resources to destroy the screen first, obviously, then kill the big guy. And in most cases they're going to trade 2 to keep, they're going to have that screen to protect the big guy, but still they're going to, they're obviously going to trade, at least if they're playing smart. But you have to allocate your resources, so you have to play your units, wait a turn, hope that they don't die, then send them in to the screen, then play more units to send into the big guy. God forbid he's getting restored. Oh man, that's going to be a nightmare. The point is if you have a tactic that can just kill that guy immediately, you cannot in some cases make up for lack of tactics with just units and board clearing. I honestly think that the Consortium has a force supply, destroy a unit if you have a mercenary on the field. That's really good. That's a force supply, basically force supply hard removal. If they don't have revenge or something crazy like that, you can take anything out. You can take anything out if you have a mercenary on the board. All you have to do is just press your commander ability, or play just play something that has the mercenary tag on it, and you can destroy anything you want. Unless of course it has like something like emergency bunkers or something like that. But in some cases, I just don't think you can compensate for the value that you can get from a tactic, because you can sit there and send two or three units into something just to kill it, or you can spend the resources to create that tactic and kill it right then and there with one card instead of sending two or more or one unit into it. Then you have to, you still have to play another unit, have to wait a turn to use it if it doesn't die. Whereas with your tactics, you have the flexibility to use them anywhere you want to kill something behind the screen, to kill the screen right out, so then you can send your other units into the other bigger guy. Now, I realize that there are some cards out there like the Autovex Squad. I think that's the name. It's the 4-supply 4/2 with mobility. Great card for clearing. Great card for clearing. As well as the other 4-supply 3/4. And those I have those in my decks because they're just too good not to have, because you can use them, you can combo them with something else, and then you can clear a big guy right off the bat. But in some cases, I just don't think that effectively trading and controlling the board can compensate for an AoE board clear, whereas they just spend their whole turn, get rid of everything on the board, and just start anew. Just start anew, and that only took one card. Granted, it might take their whole turn, it might take all of their supply that turn, but they just even the playing field. Now we're back to square one. A simple card like Saturated Fire, and the other I forget which one was the 2-supply and the 3-supply card, but those are just simple good. They're just simple, easy, good cards. Deal 3 damage to a target unit and deal 1 damage to adjacent units. That's fine. That's fine. And then if you combo that with something that has firepower, now you're going to do 4. I did like that to number 1. You're going to do 4 to 1, which basically for the most part will probably kill most things, unless it's way later in the late game if you're using it just on a fresh unit. You're going to do 4 to 1 and 2 to adjacent, and that you just can't compensate for that. For 3 supply, well, granted, you're gonna have a card with firepower on the board, but something as simple as a recon element, I think that's the name, the 1/1 with cloak and +1 firepower. How are you going to get that unless you use a card something like that? Just not even that, just 3 damage to 1 unit and then 1 to adjacent units, and then that makes your job easier when you're trying to trade efficiently. I just don't think that some of these tactics are just way too good not to have, even if they're just as simple as EMP Blast. Because there's plenty of times where you want to deal that 1 damage and you don't want to send anything that has more than 1 health. And you have that with EMP Blast. And obviously everyone has that, but something like Saturated Fire, some people still don't have that. And that's something that I think really is worth the 10 junk that you have to spend versus another unit. I honestly think that. That's kind of the reason why I think sometimes, these tactics, while again only they're locked to certain commanders, are just too good not to create immediately. Especially something as an AoE. Saturated Fire is kind of a pseudo AoE because you're gonna do damage to 3 different targets, which hopefully you don't have more than that, because at that point you probably don't have a board and you're probably already losing the game. But even something as just as simple as deal 1 damage like the EMP Blast, or 4 supply, destroy any target as long as you have the mercenary a mercenary unit on the board. Of course, if you can actually target them. I just don't think that in some situations you can compensate for that by just controlling the board. That's a very big advantage to have. Having AoE ready and waiting whenever you need it. Having a dedicated 3 damage to a specific target whenever you need it. How are you going to get past that Raptor tank? Do you really want to send in a 3/2, a 4/5, and a 5/6, all just to kill one, which you would have killed with one tactic. See what I'm saying? So that's really the reason why I think tactics are kind of underrated, I guess you could say. They are second. They are second in the totem pole, right below units. But that's why I kind of feel like tactics and units, while units should be always number one for the most part, tactics aren't very far behind. It's not like this. I think it's more like that. So that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss in this video. Very long video. I hope that somebody found this insightful, because I myself am I'm a new player. I'm a young player, and so I'm figuring things out along as I go. I still bring some other, I still bring knowledge that I've had from other games, but I really do think that tactics should be pretty high on your priority. Just simple and good ones that can be used in any deck archetype for that commander. And then obviously units, number one. So thank you all for watching. I know, like I said, it's a long video. I hope you enjoyed. My name is Charmaine, and I'm out. Peace. Have a good day.